I'm Alan Newberry, and today we're going to take the knife that we forged and then ground and then heat treated, and we are going to do the finish grinding. Then we're going to start working on the handles and glue them up. So let's go take a look. Right out of heat treat, I like to use an old worn 120 grit belt, or you can soak in vinegar for overnight, or sometimes it takes a couple of days to get rid of the scale. So that's the first thing. After that, then we'll start going through and thinning that edge out a little bit more and making sure that the tang is nice and flat and straight, so you can kind of push it over to one side or the other by how you grind it here. After I've kind of tweaked and straightened some things and cleaned off the scale, then you're going to want to start to go up through the grits. Right here I am hollowing out the tang area a little bit because this tang is tapered, and so if I hollow out the middle, it's going to make it easier to grind that nice and flat without having a hump in the middle, and it will also kind of lighten up the handle a bit and just make the overall flat grinding of it later just a lot easier and more pleasant. Now we're going to switch over to grinding flat the handle portion. How flat and straight you get this part right here and now is going to determine how nice a fit up you have with your handle. And now the knife has been finished to the level that we want it. Before we go through and start working on the handle, we have it to basically the final finish. We can touch it up a little bit later, but it's pretty much done and ready for handle work. What I'm going to do now is figure out where on this set of scales of Arizona Desert Ironwood will be the optimal place to locate my handle scales. I'm going to use a pretty cool marker here. It's a Pika ink deep hole marking pen, so you can get down into some kind of small tight spots and you can mark right up next to things because it has such a long shaft on it. After marking one side, you need to flip the knife over so that you make both a left and a right side scale instead of making two left-sided scales. Once I have the scales marked off, I go ahead and cut them out on the bandsaw. It's kind of an awkward shot here because I'm having to use one hand because the camera is in the way of me using two. After that, a little flattening on the disc sander to make sure I'll end up with good flat fitting. Then drilling the holes, being sure that I drill holes that are slightly larger than the pin or the tube that I'm going to insert into the handle, because if I drill it to the same number without any extra reaming or anything, it's just not going to fit in the hole. So say with an 1/8 inch pin, I use a number 30 drill bit, which is just ever so slightly larger. Then after that, I pin the two pieces together. In this case, I'm using the drill bits again, or you can use temporary pins. And then I'm grinding a little bit of a radius at the top, and I'm just have them pinned together so that both will be the same. Every once in a while, I will take it off the grinder and kind of pin it to the knife to get an idea of how things are going and make sure I don't need to take a little bit off on one side or the other. After that, I start to grind an angle on the radius there, which I think makes for a more attractive end or start to the handle. It just flows a little better. After I have both angles sanded out well, it's time for glue up. One of my biggest tips is to have everything lined up very well beforehand. Make sure I have everything cleaned with alcohol or acetone. Both the scales, the pins, and the knife itself, have everything cleaned up nice, because you don't necessarily have a whole lot of working time with these things. And also another huge tip is to pre-fit everything before doing glue to make sure you don't have a problem somewhere, because once you have glue on it, it's a big pain in the rear end to try to fix anything. Gloves are another good tip, but a lot of the different gloves will melt with acetone, so that's something to keep in mind. Again, having a test fit up is a huge bonus, making sure everything's clean, and everything is prepared and sitting out waiting for you is so important on this stuff, especially if you're using one of the quicker epoxies. If you're trying to use a 5-minute epoxy, you have to make sure everything is ready, because otherwise you're going to run into trouble. In this case, I've got clamps. I've already adjusted the clamps beforehand, so I just have to put them on. I don't have to adjust them for size. I've already got pieces of paper towel already cut out, and I'm rubbing off those sides that I've ground and the blade. It's important not to have glue on those spots, because that glue will be there in the end, so you want to get rid of it. And after giving the epoxy a little hardening time, we're all glued up. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we are going to be shaping the handle and sharpening it. It's already shot, so we just need to edit it. So be sure to subscribe so you see it, and be sure to like as well. And thank you for watching.